Have you ever thought to yourself,
Does progress really have to be this slow?
you're practicing, you're showing up to the lessons, but somehow you're still not where you want to be? Well, you're not alone, and it's not your fault. Because here's the thing, what if the way you're learning guitar is what's actually holding you back? I've said for years that the traditional guitar lessons model is obsolete, and today, in this video, I'm going to show you why and what to do instead. But first, there's a huge misconception about how guitarists are supposed to learn. And if you don't understand this, you'll be stuck in slow motion forever. Most guitarists assume that lessons are slow because learning takes time. And well, yeah, it does, but that's not really the problem. The real problem, well, there are two. First of all, traditional lessons condition us to not only expect slow progress, but to accept them as the norm. And speaking from experience, mine and my students, this does not ever need to be the case. The other, even bigger problem, though, is that guitar lesson programs aren't structured for real-world musicianship. They're structured like books. Yep, the entire way that guitar is taught is actually based more on what makes a method book's table of contents make sense, not what the real world is going to require of you as a musician. And here's where it gets worse. Most guitar teachers are really just repeating how they were taught decades ago.
I turned out fine, so I'll teach the same way.
The problem with that? You don't necessarily learn the same way that they learn. You don't necessarily think the same way that they think. And if you struggle, the system isn't questioned. You are. And before we go any further, this is something else that's baked into the traditional lesson system that's even more counterproductive and potentially even damaging. Have you ever felt like you're the problem if you're not progressing? That's because with traditional lessons, it's structured so that the method gets praised if you succeed, but you get blamed if you don't. And not even directly either. It's just assumed that you didn't do your part. You just start believing.
Maybe I'm not talented enough. Maybe I just don't have what it takes. Maybe I just suck at this.
And that's just unacceptable. The truth? You don't need a better method book. You do need a structured path, a pipeline that turns you into a functional musician. And that's where the 4 pillars come in.
4 pillars?
When I started teaching, I quickly realized that there was so much more to musicianship than just playing skill. So I started adding extra courses to help my students with songwriting, recording, improvisation, riff writing, even understanding the music industry. And eventually, I saw the pattern emerge. It all comes down to 4 main areas that every musician ultimately needs to develop. Pillar number 1, technique and vocabulary. Yes, your playing skill does definitely matter. And what you practice to develop your technique ultimately defines your vocabulary. But that's still just one piece. Pillar number 2, improvisation. Because if you can't think musically and basically compose melodies within the harmonic context of the music in real time, you're still trapped in exercise mode. Pillar number 3, songwriting and recording. Because writing your own music, that is taking all of these skills and turning them into an impactful, memorable, recorded song is what really makes you an artist. And of course, pillar number 4, the music industry, because none of this matters whatsoever if you don't know how to get people to actually hear any of it. So where do traditional guitar lessons fit into all of this? Well, they barely scratch the surface of pillar number 1. But before you despair, it's actually way easier and cheaper to fix this than you might think. There's the old way, guitar lessons for potentially hundreds of dollars a month for just a tiny piece of the equation. And there's the modern way. Use everyday technology to not only learn everything you need, but also develop your guitar skill to a very high level and for a tiny fraction of the cost. For example, in my Total Artist Development System, using only 2 tools, Patreon and Zoom, I'm able to walk musicians through all 4 of these pillars because the way that I'm presenting the material leads them through how to actually use them in real-life musical situations. And if you want to go deeper into this and have me personally help you develop your overall musicianship, click the link in the description. But as I was saying, technology. We have literally the most insane technology at the tips of our fingers every day. Not harnessing it to improve how we develop as musicians is squandering a huge opportunity. And for what? Why do that? We have better tools at our fingertips than anybody ever who came before us. And just because they had to make do doesn't mean that you need to learn guitar like it's 1955. If you want to start actually making progress, structure your practice so that you're constantly covering all 4 pillars, not just one. I've created an entire system that does exactly that. Check out the link in the comments and I'll see you inside. And more importantly, start thinking beyond lessons, because when you do, your entire musical future opens up. And if you want to see 9 other things to avoid like the plague, check out this video.